Ang lecture natin. For opening prayer, I request Ate Manena.
Okay, please join me in my prayer. Saramachinan, Alpomanim, Chunjin, Champamanim, Kumsanida, Sarahamida, and parents, thank you so much once again, Holy Parents, for this wonderful night of prayer that you've given to us as we gather here tonight, or as our 18 days here with parents for the benefits of all Heavenly Parents. We hope and pray, Father, that we could be able to really inherit your love, Heavenly Parents, as we use this, Heavenly Parents, to really invite your loving sons, Heavenly Parents, into bring us into your blossom, Father in heaven. Thank you once again, Heavenly Parents, for the gift and the inspiration, Heavenly Parents, that you've given to us, Heavenly Parents. Hope and pray, Father, that through these Heavenly Parents, we can be able to lay the foundation, Heavenly Parents, to really fulfill, especially the 7 year course, and 7 year course of our true mother and parents. Once again, Father in heaven, we hope and pray, Father, that we could be able to success, especially Father in heaven, our planning activities for this February 6, the value of hope, Father in heaven, hope and pray that we could be able to unite as one of thy parents centering on earth. Thank you so much for everything as I offer this prayer in behalf of our brothers and sisters. What's your parents' name? Jew.
Jew. Welcome, brothers and sisters. Good evening.
Good evening.
Let us, ano, picture tayo. So, buksan natin ang ating mga, anong Tagalog sa camera? Hindi ko alam na. Hindi ko na alam eh.
Kala ko alam mo. Alam mo, Tagalog mo sa amin. K lang, ginawang K.
Pero yan eh. Hindi na yan, te. Sige lang. Akisan,
Nadipindot ko
Christine-san, Bea-san. Ano tayo sa babae? San ba? Okay. Hmm. Nagtuxedo pala si Bel. Okay. Okay. Art. Art, are you ready? 사랑합니다. 하나, 둘, 셋. Right. Parang naparami tayo ngayon ah. Next, Vision 2027.
Oh.
Sungmi, Sungmi, Sungmi. And for the Royal of Hope. Right. Then, last, Baragi. Hana,
Finish natin.
Hana, 둘, 셋. Alright. 감사합니다, 여러분. How's your day? Are you excited for tonight's lecture? Kasi ang topic natin ngayon is chapter 6, Second Advent of the Messiah. Diba? We will know in this lecture about when the Messiah will come, how the Messiah will come, and and what place, where is the chosen, what is the chosen nation the Messiah will come, and the other thing, languages that we need to use, language. So, right, and maybe after the lecture we have video to parents life course for an hour. So I don't know if we have time. If we have time, let us see. Pwede pa. But if not, so are you excited, brothers and sisters? So that pag ano, if someone will ask you, uh, why is it Korea is the chosen nation? What would you answer? What would be your answer? What would you say? Just like this? Like that? That's fine. Yeah. And how the Messiah will come, also important. So without uh, further ado, let us proceed to our first lecture. She's already, and she was preparing already, been a week already. Prepared a lot for her. So I would like to welcome to lecture the section one. I would like to welcome the incoming blessed family with a Japanese spouse. Yeah. I think mag-start na sila ngayong year. I don't think if kung tama ba yung narinig ko. Sobra na yun siya. Okay, without further ado, let's welcome Ate Jinky, Lagong Boy. Let's give a round of applause.
Good evening, everyone. Wala pa kuya, di pa mag-start. Tawag. Yeah, and yeah, I would like to share my screen. Nasaan ba? Yes, good evening, everyone. Yeah, as for
Good news.
tonight, we are now in the chapter 6. Yeah, the last part of the tama ba? Di ba yung principle? Yeah, chapter 6 na tayo. So this is the one of the part that we could really understand why, yeah, about the second advent, of course. So as it says here, yeah, Jesus clearly foretold of his return. It's in Matthew 16, chapter 27, that return of Jesus. Yet he added that no one knew of the day and hour of his return. That was in Matthew 24, verse 36. So this is that as we are talking about in the second advent of of course, the question is, uh, how recognize the second coming of Jesus. Then, yeah, Jesus is the Messiah, of course. Of course, as it says here is that um, Christ, of course, Jesus Christ or the Messiah at the second in the second advent will come like a thief at night. So of course, no one knew. Yeah. Di ba pag ang magnanakaw, bigla-bigla lang naman niya bigla-biglang dumarating. So yeah, how we could really know when is the time and recognize all these things. Nevertheless, we can deduce from the scriptural verse, surely the Lord God does nothing without revealing his secret to his servants, the prophets. It is in the Amos chapter 3, verse 7, that God will surely reveal all secrets about the second advent to his prophets before he carries out his work. So, yeah, as we look at to our past chapter that we study about how God really prepared, right? For example, when we look at the John the Baptist, yeah, John the Baptist and his family, it says here that God will reveal all the secrets, of course, to his prophets before he carries out his work. So, God really prepared, yeah, God really preparing those people who will receive him at that time. So, like when we talk about in the John the Baptist, uh, in about the birth of Jesus also is only a revelation actually. And it says it accordingly, God will certainly give prophecies to those faithful believers who are in the light. That is what we are talking about now. Yeah, God will really reveal, and we can also say that uh, give the prop to the faithful believers, which is especially at this time that we are in the last days, of course, that uh, ito yung sinasabi nilang parang who are the chosen one, something na mga ganun. So we are, especially in our time, yeah, who will really receive the Messiah. So the section 1, when will Christ return? Yeah, as we see in this in our parallel providential ages, so we call the time of Christ's second advent the last days, as it was already explained in this eschatology. We are living in the last days today. We can thus understand that today is truly the time of Christ's return. Yeah. Ito na yung, yeah, as we study in the eschatology, actually, yeah, we are talking about the last days. The last days that we are talking about is, yeah, especially we are living at this time. Yeah, and how we could really understand when we look at the parallel providential ages here at the church in the chart. Yeah, at the time that in the Old Testament until the New Testament, as can be seen in the above chart, Jesus came at the conclusion of the 2,000-year long Old Testament age, the age of the providence of restoration. The principle of restoration through indemnity leads us to infer that Christ is to return at the end of 2,000-year long New Testament age, at the age of the prolongation of the providence of restoration, which has been restoring the previous age through the substantial parallel conditions of indemnity. We can thus conclude that the period of the Second Advent began soon after the end of the First World War. Yeah, this is talking about in the end of First World War as we studied in the 1918 as the period of the Second Advent began as I think yeah as we um at the First World War in the end ended in 1918. Yeah, 1918, and the national indemnity condition also was established through the I think March 1st movement of 1919. And as you remember, right, I think I don't know if you are reading about the biography, I think, of True Father. And that foundation, True Father, was born in 1920. So I think we did the mission of the returning Christ. There's a connection actually. So we are going to study furthermore at yeah the next section that we are going to continue to. I hope in this short one I you can really understand some of the and yeah I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ate Jinky. So, when the Messiah will come? Devian, can you answer? Are you there, Devian?
Yes. Sorry. At the end of the Second World War. First World War, sorry.
First World War. And so, the end of the First World War, 1918, between 1918 and 1930, because when we add all those numbers, 400 years, 120, it's equivalent to 1930. So that's the uh yung gaano kahaba yung years, the preparation, the prolongation of the providence, 1930, 1930 years. So between 1918 and 1930, the Messiah will come, and we all know that true Father was born 1920. All right, so next, let's proceed now to the section two about how, in what manner, how, what manner the Messiah, the Christ will return. So I'd like to welcome, all right, I would like, hindi pala, sorry. I would like to welcome to give us the lecture. My privilege. Give a round of applause to Ate Sylvia Amelia de Apera.
Thank you so much, Kuya Herwin. Sige, gagay ko lang for that very kind introduction. So please allow me to share my screen first. Yeah. So for a while. is a continuation of this evening's ano, learning together. My task is to discuss with you and learn along with us all how, in what manner would Christ or the returning Christ will come. And here we have to study the perspectives on the Bible. um, sorry. Sorry. In in it is said in the we have learned in section 1 that Jesus said that he will come like a thief, right? But surely also God doesn't do his will without telling it to his prophets. So there are actually like two prophecies that has been trying to foretell the coming of Jesus Christ again. So here we should hence we should re-examine the Bible from the perspective that the second advent of Christ uh, that may not take place in a miraculous way. It may in fact take place in the same manner as the first advent. So alam natin in the first advent na of Jesus na before the coming of Jesus Christ, there were also two prophecies. In fact, ang mas kaya ang mga Jews before, even if they were trying to prepare for the coming of the Messiah, may iba na naniniwala na he will also come from the clouds. Just like, because in Malakay, it was said na bago darating ang Messiah, darating muna si Elijah pabalik. In a like manner, meron ding isang prophecy. Haven't able to memorize it though. Pero isa din prophecy is, ang alam nila, darating siya in flesh. But their belief is, Jesus Christ has to come through the lineage of, ayun parang anak na ni King David, something like that. So, yun. But, alam natin na Jesus Christ came as the ordinary person, no? In fact, yung nagiging tatay niya, doon pa nga siya si Joseph. So, ngayon titingnan natin, paano nga ba darating ang second advent? Would it happen like in the same manner as of the first advent? Titingnan natin. And so, Christ is born on earth. So, in Luke 27, kasi si Christ na tao, isinilang sa mundo. So, in Luke 17, chapter 24 to 25, Jesus made a prediction about the Lord at his return. But first, it is said there, na he must suffer many things and be rejected by this generation. So, ano bang ibig sabihin kaya ni Jesus Christ in this? While it is also said that if Jesus were to return, if this has to happen, if Jesus were to return literally on the clouds, because there was another, a prophecy na darating siya in the clouds of heaven, would he not really be accepted and honored even by this sin-ridden world? Kasi kahit klaro dito sa Luke 17 verse 24, it is clearly said na pag darating ang second advent niya, surely makakaranas siya ng many difficulties and be rejected by his generation, the generation that is prepared for during his coming. I mean, yung mga tao na nakahanda or actually nag-wait for the Messiah, and then that would definitely be the Christians. We are that one, those people. Kaya lang, meron ding isa, di ba? Meron ding isang prophecy na darating siya in the clouds. Kaya lang, alam din natin na kung mangyayari halimbawa na in the clouds siya, itong sinasabi ni Jesus Christ in Luke 17:24 verse 24 to 25, hindi totoo, no? So, tingnan natin. I have to continue. Jesus foresaw that the second advent, the Christians would be likely to persecute Christ and condemn him as a heretic when he is born in the flesh. That is why he foretold that the Lord would suffer and be rejected by this generation. So this prophecy in Luke can never be fulfilled unless the returning Christ is born on earth. So, yun, di ba may dalawa ding prophecy tayo na Jesus Christ will come like a thief, and then even tayo, mga Christians, naniniwala na darating siya na sa clouds. Pero kung darating siya sa clouds, bakit sinasabi na um, will he find faith on earth? Parang ganon. Merong ganong verse. Hindi ko alam kung ano. Basta merong ganong klaseng Bible verse na nagsasabi na kung ba darating siya, makakahanap ba siya ng maniniwala o mag-accept sa kanya. And but again, balik tayo dito sa Luke 17 verse 24 to 25, it is being clearly said na darating siya na makakaranas ng maraming difficulty and rejection by his own generation. So definitely dapat nating maintindihan na Christ returning in the clouds will not really be possible. Kasi kung darating siya in the clouds, lahat ng naniniwala sa kanya will definitely just bow down and kneel in and glorify him immediately. Pero bakit kailangan niya makaranas ng rejection? Bakit kailangan niyang ma-persecute? So therefore, we can say na ang manner of coming of the second advent will be the same as that of the first advent. Flesh and be persecuted. So he is therefore be born on earth. So para yung prophecy in Luke can really be fulfilled or realized. Ajo? So also it is said in Matthew chapter 7 verse 22 to 23, Jesus said, "On that day many will say to me, Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy on your name and cast out demons in your name and do many mighty works in your name? And then I will declare to them, I never knew you. Depart from me, you evildoers." So bakit kaya sinabi ni Jesus Christ ito? This is clearly, this is a clear evidence na lahat, katulad ng mga tao during the time of Jesus Christ coming, the coming of the Messiah, yung mga tao din na nag-aantay kay Jesus Christ way back, doon sa time niya, ay nag-prepare din, nag-aaral ng Torah, they were practicing, the Jews tradition, and then practicing the Sabbath, ganon. Pero nung dumating na ang Messiah, they are the ones who send them to the cross. So ngayon din, ito din yung mangyayari na tayo, lahat ng Christians, lahat na naniniwala of the coming of the Messiah, if we will not be able to recognize or understand that the coming of the Messiah will happen the same as that of the coming of Jesus Christ, tayo din mismo mga Christians ang magre-reject sa Kanya. Kaya hindi tayo magtataka ngayon, why is it that there are so many people, so many believers of Jesus who cannot recognize the true parents coming, the advent of the second Christ? Why? It is because we are very confined on that very old and conventional belief that Jesus Christ will come again in the clouds. Kaya sinabi niya, kahit na nagsasabi tayo na Lord, Lord, did we not prophesy on him? Hindi ba kami sumasamba ng pangalan mo? Hindi ba kami nagka-cast away ng mga demons sa pangalan mo? Parang ganun. Hindi ba kami gumagawa ng mga bagay, ng mga gawaing nakasentro sa pangalan mo? Something like that. But sabi ni Jesus Christ, I never know you. So, katulad din kaya it is very important that we have to know the truth and we have to be vigilant and at least be open-minded, especially in knowing the truth and accepting the truth. In what manner would the second advent will come, so that we will not be these people who the Messiah will say na I never had known you. Depart from me, you evildoers. So parang napakasakit, no? Kaya we should always remember that. Dapat sana tayo mga Kristiyano, sa yung naniniwala kay Jesus Christ, are the ones who are going to accept the Lord of the second advent. So, as a continuation, at the second advent of Jesus, those Christians who expect his miraculous and glorious appearance with almost certainty are the ones to reject him if he comes in the flesh of humble birth. So, alam naman natin na
true parents just come from among us. Like, yeah, seemingly an ordinary person also. But then, we should have to, kaya tayo ngayon, in our time, dapat talaga, if we have to know the truth, we have to, like, seek and implore God's guidance and humbly ask and pray for guidance para mas maiintindihan natin with a concept of, without concept of ourselves, our own belief. Rather, we have to completely submit. Like, we come to the zero point of any idea para yung new truth will be, parang ma-absorb na natin. So, as I continue, no matter how faithful they may be, the Lord will be left with no choice but to abandon them because they will have transgressed against God. So, yun ang nakakatakot, no? Kasi kahit na gaano man tayo naniniwala sa akala natin to the Creator, to God, and to Lord Jesus Christ Himself. But if we could not have had the opportunity to recognize the coming of this present time, the coming of the Lord of the second advent, then definitely we are the ones who would not be able to accept, or would not be able to to accept the Lord of the second advent, which is our true parents already. So hence this prophecy also cannot be fulfilled if Jesus comes in the cloud. So itong prophecy na to in Matthew verse 7, chapter 7 verse 22 to 23, hindi rin mangyayari. Pero alam naman natin, as we have studied earlier, na um, yung mga lahat ng mga foundation na kinakailangan has already been laid so that the Messiah, the Lord of the second advent, can really come. Okay? So I hope na tayo, we can have that kind of mind preparation. So as well as, mind and heart preparation. So we will study, why did Jesus say that the Lord will come on the clouds? Otherwise, di ba meron din siyang prophecy na sinabi niya na darating siya na like a thief and he will come in the clouds. What are the reasons why he had to say this? The first reason is, it was to prevent the delusions of the Antichrist. Kasi kung klinaro ni Jesus Christ na darating siya in flesh, sigurado naman na maraming Antichrist na magpapaka-Lord of the Second Advent. Yun yung pinakang rason. Bakit hindi siya sinabi na, talagang darating siya in flesh, parang ganon. Kasi nga, di ba, as we have learned in the, after the worldwide foundation in the preparation has been laid for the coming of the Messiah. It has to take, kaya mention ni Kuya Herman earlier na, it is between 2018 to 2030. That is the, parang, what's this? Allotted time period. Period kung saan pwede darating ang Messiah. Kaya nga si True Father na nabuhay ng 1920, di ba? I mean, ipinanganak. So, kung klaro sana na ganun ang pagkasabi na darating siya as a human being, marami ding magpapanggap na siya din ang Lord of the Second Advent. That's the first reason. And another reason nga bakit sinabi ni Jesus Christ na the Lord will come in the clouds is to encourage Christians in difficult path to have faith, of faith. So, it was to encourage us who were walking a difficult path of faith na we have to hope for na darating na kasi ang Lord of the Second Advent. Now, no matter how difficult our path na nararanasan, we would not waver. Instead, we have to continue with that kind of path with so much hope na darating nga ang second coming. So, why did also the hope of Jesus' imminent return, as stated in John chapter 22 verse 21 verse 22, inflame the zeal of his disciples and give them the strength to overcome persecution by Judaism and the Roman Empire. Encouraged by the ardent hope of the Second Advent, they were filled with Holy Spirit and established the early Christian church, even amidst great adversity. So nakita natin, yung katulad nung nangyari sa mga Christians na um, I mean, early Christians, yung mga disciples ni Jesus Christ, after Jesus Christ was crucified, had he not said na darating siya like a thief and he will come very soon in the clouds or something. Yung sinasabi, yung mga nakakaranas nung, di ba, ang mga disciples at saka mga apostles ni Jesus Christ, who, kasi ang Christianity talaga na fully established 500 years after Jesus Christ's death. So, yung mga followers niya, might as well were not able to endure those difficulties and the persecution during the time of the Roman Empire, and even in among Judaism. Kasi alam naman natin kung gaano kahirap yung nadadaanan ng mga Christians, even to the extent na ipapakain sila ng ng lions, they were beheaded, they were, stoned to death, yung ganon. So kung hindi nila alam, hindi sila nagkakaroon ng hope of Jesus' return on that time, they as well were not able to overcome persecution and were not able to establish the early Christian church. So, yun yung rason bakit hindi bluntly said na darating si Jesus Christ ng ganitong time, or yung hindi ba detalye ba na, after 400 years pa siya after 120 years pa siya darating. Walang ganon. Is because that is the hope that they have had in their hearts, that the Lord of the Second Advent will come. Yun yung nakakapag sindi ng aspiration na or ng determination nila to go forward and overcome all the difficulties. So, ngayon, it is through this na example, we can therefore say na ang pagdating talaga ng Lord of the Second Advent would not happen as it is first said na it will appear in the clouds, but rather, His coming would happen through the flesh, and that is the coming of our true Father, and He was born on 1920. So, I hope na may take away kayo sa lecture na ito, sa very short period na lecture ko na ito. Thank you very much, brothers and sisters, for paying attention.
Thank you so much, Ate Sylvia. Let's give a hand to Ate Sylvia first.
Thank you very much.
So the Messiah will come as a human being, right? So it's very clear kasi the same what happened to Jesus Christ. People are expecting Jesus to come in the clouds. So it doesn't happen. Jesus was born in it. Now the same what will happen in the second advent of the Messiah, if we know the history, it will also happen nowadays. So the Messiah will be born as a man here on earth. So now let us proceed to the section 3. If the Messiah will be born on earth, tanong, saan? Where? So we'll know, and it is my honor to welcome our next lecturer, very smart kid from the power of the Aperas family. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome Bea, Cristinda de Apera.
Hello po. Oh my God, sobrang kinakabahan ako, kuya. I swear. Feeling ko, oh my God.
That's normal.
Among all the lectures na bibigay ko, ito yung nakakakaba. Pero try ko pong explain sa inyo, brothers and sisters, in the best ability that I can. Yeah, oh my God. Pero yeah. Yun nga. Sige, sige.
Take your time.
Hala! Taas pa ng oras natin. It's okay.
Question na ba?
Kaya hindi pa po. Hindi pa po kuya. Sorry po. Hello po ulit. Good morning. Good evening sa elders natin na present. Kina Kuya Randy, kina Terlina, Kuya Herwin, Ate Jinky, Ate Monena, Mama, and for the rest of the brothers and sisters around, good evening po sa lahat. So today, I will be talking about the section 3, um, where will Christ return? So since we have already learned about, kasi when we actually think about the second advent, there are a lot of questions that will actually come into our mind. And then the major questions that we will be asking ourselves or others would be, again, when will he come? How will he come on earth? Yeah, and then where, and then who? Who is second advent? So yun yung pinaka basic, yung pinaka fundamental questions that everybody have in mind when we talk about the second coming. And since we already have learned when Christ will be born, when Christ will return, and how will he return? We have learned that he will be born. He will be born as a man, right? So yeah. Yeah. So if Christ comes again as a man, born on earth, he will certainly be born among a people who are chosen by God in accordance with his predestination. So, because even when we look into many accounts in the history and even in the Bible, God will always prepare that central person naman, di ba? I think we all would agree to this one. So where is the place God has chosen for Christ's return? And who are the people chosen to receive him? So sino nga ba, brothers and sisters? So would it be that the chosen people are still the Jewish people? So will Christ return among the Jewish people? So some Christians expect that Christ will come again among the Jewish people based on several passages from the Bible. Yeah. And one of its account is written in the book of Revelations and even in the book of Matthew, wherein it states that, and I heard the number of the sealed, 144,000 sealed out of every tribe of the sons of Israel. And truly I say to you, you will not have gone through all the towns of Israel before the Son of Man comes. So, however, to interpret these verses in this way is to misunderstand God's providence. So, in this matter, let us talk about the parable of the vineyard. So I will be briefly reading to you the parable of the vineyard, brothers and sisters. Huh? Vineyard? Basta yun na yun. So yun. Here another parable. So Jesus said, there was a householder who planted a vineyard and set a hedge around it and dug a wine press in it and built a tower and let it out to tenants and went into another country. So when the seasons of fruit drew near, he sent his servants to the tenants to get his fruit. And the tenants took his servants and beat one, killed another, and stoned another. Again, he sent other servants more than the first, and they did the same to them. So afterward, the afterward he sent his son to them, saying, "They will respect my son." But when the tenants saw the son, they said to themselves, "This is the heir. Come, let us kill him and have his inheritance." And so they took him and cast him out of the vineyard and killed him. When therefore the owner of the vineyard comes, what will he do to those tenants? So they said to him, "He will put those wretches to a miserable death and let out the vineyard to other tenants who will give him the fruits in their seasons. Jesus, that is what Jesus said to them. Therefore, I tell you, the kingdom of God will be taken away from you and given to a nation producing the fruits of it. So, in this parable, brothers and sisters, the household represents God. So, the owner of the vineyard represents God. And then the vineyard represents God's work. And then the tenants entrusted with him, entrusted with the work, represents the Jewish people at that time, while the servants represents the prophets, and then the son of the household represents Jesus Christ. And then the other tenants who will harvest the fruits represents some of other nations which can receive Christ at his second advent and realize God's will. So by this parable, Jesus conveyed that he will not come again to the people who persecuted him. God will take away the mission previously entrusted to them and give it to another people who can produce its fruits upon Christ's return. So even if we, even when if we are in the position of um, God or the Father, um, as a parent, would you want to send your son again to those people who have persecuted your son, who have tried to kill your son, and not just tried, but um, pushed that yeah, who had brought death to your son, di ba hindi naman, or even to your children, future children, di ba hindi? So that is why when we will ask, will Christ return among the Jewish people? Basically, hindi. Hindi. And then, even if makita na natin into many accounts in the Bible, there have been yung, even in the time of Abraham, ni Moses. Diba si Moses yung nag-lead ng mga Israelites? Diba only their descendants were able to enter Canaan, not the older one, because the first generation failed their responsibility. They have persecuted, and they have yung limutin ko na. Basta yun, they were not able to fulfill their responsibility. Thus, ang nag-inherit ng ganun is yung mga descendants na nila. So therefore, the chosen people after Jesus' crucifixion are not the descendants of Abraham, but rather the Christians who have inherited the faith of Abraham. So yun. Mhm. So that is in Matthew chapter 21, verse 22 to 43. That is the parable of the vineyard, where Jesus conveyed that he will not come again to the people who persecuted him, and God will take away the mission previously entrusted to them and give it to another people who can produce its fruit upon Christ's return. Now, let's talk about another accounts that will lead us to where to which country does did God prepare for the coming of the second advent. So, as Jesus explained through the parable of the vineyard, when the Jewish people, like the tenants and the parable, who killed the sons of their master, led Jesus to the cross, they lost their providential mission. So which nation then will inherit the work of God and bear its fruits? The Bible suggests that this nation is in the east. So first, let's talk about the book of Revelation, which describes the opening of a scroll sealed with seven seals. So it is written in Revelation chapter 5, verse 1 to 5. And I saw in the right hand of him who was seated on the throne a scroll written within and on the back, sealed with seven seals. And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, "Who is worthy to open the scroll and break its seals?" And no one in heaven or on earth or under the earth was able to open the scroll or to look into it. And I wept much that no one was found worthy to open the scroll or to look into it. Then one of the elders said to me, "Weep not. Lo, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the Root of David, has conquered, so that he can open the scroll in its seven seals." So the Lion of the tribe of Judah signifies Christ. It is he who will open this scroll with the seven seals. in the last days. So after the six seals are open. And another passage from the Bible, in the book of Revelation, chapter 7, verse 2 to 4, it says here that then I saw another angel ascend from the rising of the sun with the seal of the living God, and he called with a loud voice, saying, "Do not harm the earth or the sea or the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God upon their foreheads." And I heard the number of the sealed 144,000. So this indicates that the seal of the living God will be placed on the foreheads of the 144 in the east, where the sun rises. So these chosen one will accompany the Lamb at his return. We can thus infer that the nation which will inherit the work of God and bear its fruit for the sake of the second advent is in the east and will come in the east. So there, Christ will be born and received by 144,000 elect of God, which among the nations of the east is chosen to receive the Lord. So, sino nga ba? And then, where, which part of the east? So, yun. Before, we were talking and discussing in our class, saan ba? Kasi di ba, when we it in the, um, when we view it in the map, the road map, yung Providence started hindi sa east, nasa parang middle sila, Middle East, middle, nasa middle sila, and then which part of on sang east ba yung tinutukoy dito sa Revelation. So yun, it will be in the far eastern. So this will be discussed thoroughly when we study more deeply the principle. Brothers and sisters. So yun. Next. So the nation that we will be talking is in the east is Korea. So since ancient times, the nation in the east have traditionally been considered to be the three nations of Korea, Japan, and China. So among them, Japan throughout its history has worshipped the sun goddess Amaterasu Umikami, while Japan entered the period of the Second Advent as the fastest nation and severely persecuted Korean Christianity. While on the other hand, China at the time of the Second Advent was the hotbed of communism and would become have a tendency to become a communist nation. Thus, both countries, Japan and China, belong to Satan's side. Korea then is the only nation in the East where Christ can return and will return. So let us examine from the viewpoint of the principle the various ways in which Korea has become qualified to receive Christ at the second advent. As a nation to which the Messiah returns, Korea had to meet certain qualifications. These following qualifications. Since di ba nalaman naman natin na Japan and China cannot be the country where the Messiah can return because of their history and yeah, and then there wasn't enough foundation for the two countries to become the chosen nation. And it was only Korea who have where we will be learning its long and beautiful history. We will be able to ano get to realize why Korea was the chosen nation. Talaga. So yun. First, Korea as a national, they must have a national condition of indemnity. So for Korea, to become a nation fit to receive the Messiah, it had to fulfill a national dispensation of 40 for the separation of Satan, for the cosmic levels, restoration of Canaan. So, di ba, we all, I think sorry po. I think we are all aware, di ba, if we're going to do condition, it will always be, yung 40, it signifies the separation of Satan from us. That's why, kung may gagawin tayong condition, our elders would push us to do it in 40 days, or kung bowing man, do it in 40s. So, yan. So Korean in this matter as well has to have a national dispensation of 40 for the separation of Satan. So why was Korea given this condition of indemnity? So if Christ returns to Korea, the Korean people are destined to become the third Israel. When we look into the history in the Old Testament age, the descendants of Abraham who upheld God's will and endured persecution in Egypt were the first Israel. And then the Christians, who were persecuted as heretics by the Jews as they honored the resurrected Jesus and carried out on the providence of restoration, became the second Israel. And then Christ at his return is likely to be similar, condemned as a heretic by the Christian of his time, in accordance with the prophecy that he will suffer and be rejected by his generation. Diba? Since from that ano, to from that history, chosen people have always seemed to be suffering a lot. Kasi nga, they were, it was the foundation, it was their indemnity condition to separate from Satan. Thus, yung third, Korea, standing as a position of a third Israel, must also undergo this course of indemnity. So then the Korean people who will attend the returning Christ and support him to complete the third chapter of God's providence will become the third Israel if they fulfill and if they meet this qualification. So let us discover if they did really undergo I qualify. Did they qualify? Did they meet this standard? This qualification. Yun. So as the third Israel, the Korean people. So the first Israel suffered 400 years in Egypt, right? And this was to fulfill a dispensation of 40 for the separation of Satan, as required to set out on the national course to restore Canaan. And then while on the other hand, the second Israel had to prevail over the 400 years of persecution in the Roman Empire to fulfill a dispensation of 40 for the separation of Satan as well, and as required to commence the worldwide course for the restoration of Canaan. And as a third Israel, the Korean people had also to also had to suffer under a nation on Satan's side for a period which fulfills the number 40. Thereby, they could fulfill a dispensation of 40 for the separation of Satan as required to commence the cosmic level course to restore Canaan. And this was the 40-year period during which Korea suffered untold hardship as a colony under Japan. So when we actually study even a glimpse in the history of Korea, Korea have been known to be a country where yung history nila napakalong. Like, and it has been filled with a lot of hardships. And then Korea, as a country, in the time in 1905, starting from the 1905 to 1945, have been under the under Japan. So this is exactly for 40 years there. And then when they were under Japan's um colonial rule, it was really tough. And then makikita naman natin to when we read actually the autobiographies of both our true parents, Reverend Sang Myung-un, and as well as the autobiography of his wife, Dr. Han Jahan. So yun, when they were in under Japan, marami marami talagang nangyari. Hindi I may not be able to um um share to you everything or the detailed history of Korea when they were under Japan colonial rule, but it was really tough. And then the Korean people suffered for so long, and then their suffering parallel to the hardships of the first Israel in Egypt, which is actually, di ba kung titingnan natin, it was for 400 years. And then the second Israel in the Roman Empire. So that is how difficult and how harsh it was for the Korean people. And as a country, di ba, Philippines, and for other countries who have undergone such colonial, who have been under another country, when we actually di ba, hear and learn about the history of our we will learn even in let us put na lang example yung Philippines to put it into that matter. Philippines have been under Spain, the Spaniards, for 333 years. And then, it may not be able, ay hindi man siya ganun ka-intense as what Korean people have experienced. But then, when you're under, when you're under, um, someone's, some other country's force, wala kayong freedom. And then everything will be dictated towards you. And then when what Korea experienced that during that time is actually more than that. Kasi napaka kung i-explain ko po yung Philippines, napaka-twisted ang aming version ng Philippine history, which is very funny as well. But then, yung focus natin naman dito is not the Philippines, but Korea. So Korea has been, actually, napakasakit. Oh my God, napakasakit. But then, the amazing thing is, when we actually learn about this one, how they progress, makikita natin, actually, brothers and sisters, from the lecture, how they started from this low, and then what they are now, where they are now. It's very amazing. And then you can really proclaim and you can really see that it is the nation that God has prepared. Kasi among the other, among all the other countries that I have, that I knew of. And then kasi fan ako ng Korean dramas. And then I have watched historical, parang historical dramas about Korean people. And then it was really, they are not the country that will um uh that will attack other countries, but they are the nation that will continuously defend their people. Makikita mo yun sa kanilang accounts, promise. I mean, yeah. No, nakikita na yung pagiging ako. But then, yeah. And then another one, so God's front line. The second qualification is that it should be God's front line and Satan's front line. It must be a place where both God and Satan have been working on. So, how is this? How is Korea both God's front line and Satan's front line? So in the last days, diba, the world is divided into the democratic world and the communist world, and this is still evident up until the present. So because he had given Adam the blessing of dominion, God had to give Satan a free reign to create through Adam's descendants an unprincipled world. Since we all know that Adam was as well corrupted, and he stands in the position in between, so in the middle of God and Satan. So God has had to follow in pursuit, working to restore the unprincipled world to his side. So when Christ returns to restore this fallen world to its original state as created by God, he will surely work to save the communist world. And no doubt, the nation to which he returns will play the central role in this dispensation. Korea, the nation where Christ will return, is the place most dear to God and the most abhorred by Satan. So it is the front line for both God and Satan, a place where the forces of democracy and the forces of communism collide. So this line of confrontation is Korea's 38 parallel, which was drawn to fulfill the providence of God. So among all the other nations, brothers and sisters, yung Korea lang talaga yung napaka-unique because it is just one but small nation, yet they're still divided. And then these two division of Korea have very different ideologies that they are upholding. When we look into it, yung North, they are the hotbed for communism. So nandun yung pinaka forefront ni Satan. And then while the South Korea is the place wherein it caters all other religion. So it is kung yung North Korea yung yung jail cell, ito namang South Korea, yung parang yung definition and yung place of freedom. Parang ganon. So it is a place where it is a nation that is only that is really unique. Diba among all the other nations, although may mga ano naman talaga, may mga divisions among the nation, but then it's not as intense um as Korea is. Diba kasi if we talk about one nation, they have this one parang common kumbaga kung sa religion pa, one common religion or major religion in that country, and then for other countries as well. But then in Korea, it isn't like that. So that's what makes it actually really unique. So, at the point of the confrontation between God and Satan, a sacrifice must be offered as a condition to determine the outcome of their struggles. So, the Korean people were these sacrifice placed on this front line of battle to be offered for the sake of the restoration of the universe. So, if we actually think about it, maybe yung nasa isip natin na, oh my God, since they are the chosen people, they are sila yung pinaka kung sa Bisaya pahayahay. Sila yung pinaka swerte. But then actually they are the people who bears the greatest responsibility among all. So yan. So and it has been shown through the sufferings that they had go through, their ancestors have been through, and then yung people nila, they have been through. So therefore, God divided the Korean nation just as Abraham's sacrifices were supposed to be divided. This is the reason behind the division of Korea by 38 parallel, which split it into two nations, one Cain type and the other Abel type. So the 38, so the 38 parallel is the front line of battle between democracy and communism. At the same time, it is the front line of battle between God and Satan. Actually, I'm very curious. Personally, I'm very curious to see this 38 parallel. Ano to? Actually, hindi ko pa kasi nakikita. I haven't been into Korea, though I wish I was. But then yeah, I was wondering, ano kaya yung 38 parallel? Paano yun? Red line lang na nagsa-separate? Ano yun? Diba? Because it's really I'm really curious about it. I don't know, I haven't seen the 38 parallel exactly look like, and then how does it, yung function niya, and then yung role niya, as something that divides the one nation into two. Talaga, parang naman yun, parang ang weird for me. Not, I'm not speaking to everybody, the lecturers, but for my own self. Yun, I'm really curious, ano kaya talaga yung 38 parallel? I want to it's the same for you, brothers and sisters. And for those who have been to Korea, can you tell me, anong itsura naman ng 38 parallel? Ano ba yun? Parang, lang, straw na nasa-separate ng two countries. Diba? Pero yun, kidding aside, brothers and sisters.
It's a line of barbed wire na 3 kilometers north and 3 kilometers south.
Ooh.
Within the border. So,
Wow.
3 kilometers were in that 6-kilometer line is full of landmines na pagka punta ka doon, either you will, kaya nga it's a line of no return. If you watch yung movie ni James Bond na Point of No Return, yun. Pero there are so many people staying there. One time I used to I was lucky enough to join the service project team when we had to go to the 38 parallel to serve yung mga tao doon. But it's really, you can really feel the agony and pain of separation of these two countries.
Napaka-intense. Thank you po, Kuya. Napaka. I mean, I think if you watch Grace, Brothers and Sisters pala, K-drama, yung Crash Landing on You. Totoo yung sabi ni Kuya na ang daming mga landmines. Na napaka-dangerous nga niya. And then it was, and I know, oo nga, no? But then, napaka-powerful naman ng place na yun. Nakakatakot yung 38 parallel pala. Nakakatakot siya. So, yun. Continuing, brothers and sisters. So, moreover, so again, going back, so the Korean War, which raged across the 38 parallel, diba, since it was the Korean War, which when we go back to its history, na parang it was after the Korean War that 38 parallel was established. And it was not merely a civil war, but it was a conflict between the democratic world and the communist world. Moreover, it was a conflict between God and Satan, because this war has had worldwide significance for the accomplishment of the providence of restoration. The armed forces the members of the member states of the United Nations were mobilized for the first time. So even though the participating nations may not have understood completely this providential significance, they were acting in line with God's will for the liberation of the spiritual fatherland. So yun, it's amazing. Very amazing. So at the fall of the first human ancestors, God's side and Satan's side parted ways from a single point. Life and death, good and evil, love and hate, happiness and sorrow, fortune and misfortune, all have divided from a single point and come into continual conflict with each other in human history. This divided realities consolidated separately into the Cain type and Abel type roads, which eventually matured to form the democratic road and the communist road. So when these two roads came into global conflict, it was centered on the Korean Peninsula. So have you ever wondered, brothers and sisters, what would happen if magwe-wage ng war between, again, in the Korean Peninsula, in the nation of Korea, di ba napaka. Whew. So religions, ideologies, political forces, and economic systems um, all came into conflict and caused great confusion in Korean society, which then had worldwide impact. This is because phenomena which took place in the spirit world unfolded as physical reality in Korea. So this is like this is spiritual world, unfolding of the spiritual world in the physical world. So we're the central providential nation and word magnified worldwide. So this outbreak of social and ideological chaos was a clear sign that a new road under by order, a world order was fast approaching. And as Jesus once said, as soon as its branch becomes tender and puts forth its leaves, you know that summer is near. So when the disciples asked Jesus of the place of his return, he said, "Where the body is, there the eagles will be gathered." So eternal life and eternal death collide in Korea. So the front line of the battle between God and Satan. Devils, symbolized by the eagles, gather in this land in search of the spiritually dead, while the returning Lord comes to this land in search of the people of abundant life. And napaka amazing. Ayan, let's make it quicker, brothers and sisters, kasi I think I'm taking so much time. So yan, the third qualification that must be met or in order for Korea to be the place where the Messiah will return is that it must become the object partner of God's heart. So, so to become the object partner of God's heart, uh, we must first walk a path of blood, sweat, and tears. So ever since human beings fell under the dominion of Satan and came to oppose God, God has been grieving with the heart of a parent who lost his child. And this was only known to us. This has only been, we only came to know this through our true parents. So God has labored continually in the sinful world to save immoral and wretched human beings who are nonetheless his children. Moreover, in his efforts to recover his rebellious children, time and time again, God had to let the most righteous and beloved ones to be sacrificed to the satanic world, even delivering Jesus, his only begotten Son, to the cross. So God has been grieving in this way every day since the human fall. And accordingly, an individual, family, or nation who is fighting the satanic road for the sake of God's will cannot avoid the path of blood, sweat, and tears. So how can we? tayo as as loyal and faithful children be comfortable and complacent and still expect to remain the object partners of our Heavenly Father who is suffering in deep agony. So how can we become uh, the object partners of God's heart now that ever since that human beings have fallen? So your first is to become the object partner of God's heart. So again we must be able to walk the path of blood, sweat, and tears. And then the nation, since we're talking about naman where where the Messiah will be returning, where the second advent will return. So the nation must be a nation filled with their history must be a history of blood, sweat, and tears. And this nation, which can receive the Messiah, should become the object partner of God's heart by demonstrating filial piety. So that is why it must walk the path of blood, sweat, and tears. So dapat mapoportray nila. Its people must have filial piety, deep filial piety, which is not just mere loyalty, but then deeper than the loyalty that we have to our parents and to the people, to our own, to their kind. So yeah. So both the first and the second Israel walk a path of suffering, and then the Korean people, the third Israel, have done likewise. So their miserable history was um, the path required of the chosen people of God. One can never be certain what great blessing such a path of affliction may eventually bring. So yun, yung history nila, it was the history, it has made them, they have, yun yung parang first point where they have become God's object partner because of their history. That is filled with so much um suffering. It was more than a no. Oo, talaga. And then second one is that this nation, the nation to become the object partner of God's heart, must be to qualify and stand as the object partner of God's heart, must be filled of people of goodness. So the Korean people, a homogeneous race with 400-year history, rarely invaded other nations. So even during the in its periods. So they have they no no they only used their forces to thwart invaders, not to invade other countries. So yun lang yung even though it in the past, in their periods where they have very strong military strength, they never used it in the wrong way, but then they only use it to protect their people and to defend themselves to those invaders. So 'di ba? Wow, amazing. Kasi kung I think it is human nature naman kung kasi when we think that we're so strong, we have that time tendency to commit evil. Kasi nga, yun yung nangyari, yun yung naging, ayun, when human beings fell, gusto ko umiyak. When human beings fell, they, anyway, whew, ako dahil sa history ng Korea. Oh my God. Wait, yeah. Oh my God. Whew. So yun, yung third naman is in the Korean people. So the nation must be filled by people who are by nature endowed with religious character. So in the Korea, the religious inclination has led them to strive always for that which transcends physical reality and is of more profound value. So yeah, when we actually look into Korea's history, napaka nila, yung nakaka-amaze lang kasi how they are very obedient. And then yung faith nila napaka-deep na I myself would be it would leave me speechless, like amazing. How are these people able to do such things in the past, even undergoing such horrible circumstances, miserable path, and then they were able to maintain that their faith, yung religious character nila napaka amazing. Should be should should be imitated, not just, but then yeah, it should be like that talaga. But then, yeah, amazing. So, yun. So they did not have a high regard for religions which superstitiously defined nature or strove for happiness in temporal life. So they have always revered the virtues of loyalty, filial piety, and chastity. So their fondness for folk tales which express these virtues um, stems from this powerful underpinning of their culture. Napaka-amazing, brothers and sisters, no? Korea is wow. Then the spirit of true father's words. He said that the spirit of filial piety, fidelity, and loyalty, which are the fundamental virtues of human life, is alive and breathing in Korean history. The true filial piety, exemplified by Shimjong, a devoted daughter who offered her life so that her blind father could see, is the standard of filial piety Koreans uphold as they serve their parents. Amazing, right? And then the profound love and fidelity displayed by Chunyang, who overcome the fear of death in order to keep the promise she had made to her husband, is the signpost of life for all Korean women. Lastly, the unbreakable loyalty exhibited by Admiral Yi Sun Shin, who gave his life to save his nation and people despite being abandoned by his king and other leaders, is the pride of spirit of the Korean people. So, yun. Wow. Wow. These, mga significant people whom Koreans look up to, napaka great nila. Hindi ko sila ma-describe in word, but yeah, they're so napaka talaga. It shows how much what kind of people Korean people are. I mean, what kind of character does Korean people have? Napaka profound din ah. Like indeed like super profound. Like and then last not the last one. The second from the last, the Messianic Prophecies. So the Korean people have long cherished Messianic hope, nurtured by their clear testimonies of their prophets. In the first Israel, they believe the testimonies of its prophets, that the Messiah would come as their king, establish the kingdom, and bring them salvation. And in the second Israel, in the time of the Christians, they was able to endure an arduous path of faith, due in part of their hope to that there's Christ will return. And then similarly, the Korean people, which stands in the position of the third Israel, have believed in the prophecy that righteous king will appear and found a glorious and everlasting kingdom in their land. Clinging to this hope, they found their strength to endure their afflictions. So this has been yung parang nila, yung pinaka-stem nila where they have been holding on to, yung hope nila that the righteous king will appear in their land. And then the messianic idea among Korean people was revealed through Chonggamnok. I hope I'm reading it right. A book of prophecy written in the 14th century at the beginning of the Yi dynasty. However, one fan fact, brothers and sisters, hindi siya fan fact actually, but then yeah, in a way, even among even before the introduction of Christianity to Korea, God has already revealed through the Chonggamnok the Messiah would come to the land. So, di ba, napaka amazing. It is how prepared Korea is. And today, scholars affirm that many passages of this book of prophecy coincide with the prophecy in the Bible. You see how prepared the guys. And then one thing that is really amazing in Korea, brothers and sisters, I think we all know about this one, is yung yung accounts nila napaka-detailed and they were able to really compile it. Yung parang accounts nila for everything that have happened in their history. It is there. And then I don't know if other countries have also done that. Maybe some other countries have also done that. But then when we actually study and look into it, we will be amazed. Kasi napaka even when you have to study about it, now you won't have to worry because you know that it's in there. The accounts have been laid and then have been thoroughly made by the elders, their elders. So furthermore, among the faithful of every religion in Korea are those who have received revelations that the founder of the religions will return to Korea. So there was a period of time in Korea that a lot of people have received such revelations from God directly from Jesus Christ. So God' desire is for Christianity to the of the last days to become this final religion, which can assume the responsibility of completing the goals of the many religions in history. Diba? So yung goal naman ni God, the reason that there are so many religions is to actually in the last days, the role of the Messiah is to really bring about unity among to all these religions, to all these divisions of people, and then and the religion that stands in that is yung parang foundation ng second coming would be Christianity because they are ano diba yun. Uh, in continuation, so the returning Christ who comes at the center of Christianity will attain the purposes which the founders of religion strove to accomplish. So therefore, with respect to his mission, Christ at his return may be regarded as the second coming of the founder of every religion. So when the second comings of the founders of the various religions appear in Korea in fulfillment of the diverse revelation, they will not come as different individuals, but as one person. So, yeah. So the Lord who's coming has been revealed to believers in various religions, including the Maitreya Buddha in Buddhism, the Truman and Confucianism, the returning Cho So-un, who founded the religions of Chodongyo. Yeah. And the coming of Chor Tong Doryong in the Chongnamno will be none other than the Christ at the second advent. So finally, we witness that these revelations and signs being given to spiritual attuned Christian testifying to the second coming of Christ is in Korea. So they are sprouting in profusion like mushrooms after a rain. So God promised that he will pour out his spirit upon all flesh is being fulfilled among Korean people. So as devout Christians make contract with spirits from various levels of the spirit world, from the lower realms of the paradise, many are receiving clear revelations that the Lord will come to Korea. And this is the time, in the last days, brothers and sisters, this is the time that yung spiritual napaka-active, trying to really work and cooperate with the living persons. That is why many also receive revelations as to which path they should take, and then leading them to meet the at the second coming of Christ, the Messiah. And then this is truly napaka it is the time that is not napaka active yung spirit world. Then we can really feel its forces working on this physical universe that we're living on. So yeah. So yeah. Yeah, I hope you understand me good. So and then lastly, the last uh, qualification that the nation must meet in order to become the chosen nation is that it must be able to culminate all it must become the culmination of all civilization. So yun, na-remember ko na naman yung sinabi ni Kuya Kerwin sa class namin. Anyway, so spiritual and material civilization built upon religion and science. So in wherein we know that religion and science is has been the medium, and it has been the path where human beings have used to cater and to resolve the human ignorance the human ignorance that we have. Yeah. And then in in the last days, so religion and science, and then the spiritual and the material civilization must be brought into harmony. This has been discussed even in the introduction, diba, brothers and sisters. So only then, when these two, the spiritual and material civilization, are in harmony, can we actually resolve the fundamental problems of human life and realize the world of God's ideal. So Christ in the world Christ comes to realize, science will be highly developed. It will be a society with the highest level of civilization, one in which all civilizations which have developed through the vertical course of providential history will be restored horizontally under the leadership of the Lord. Therefore, the spiritual and material aspects of civilization developing from religion and science, which have flourished all over the world, will be embraced and harmonized in Korea as guided by the new truth. Then they will bear fruit in the ideal world of God's deepest desire. If you actually look into it, brothers and sisters, diba, among all the other great all the other nations in the world, napaka advanced na ng Korea. And then considering their history nga, they have from the lowest low from the pinaka lowest position, they were able to thrive and um, be in that position where technology advances. And then it's not only the technology that have advanced, but as well as yung yung um I forgot the term. Yung culmination nga ng ibang all the other religions was also um was also there in Korea. So yeah, let's talk about more deeply this one. So first, the essences of all civilization which develop on the land should bear fruit in Korea. So the ancient continental civilization which arose in Egypt and Mesopotamia bequeathed their fruits to the peninsular civilization of Greece, Rome, and Iberia, and thence uh, to the island civilization of Great Britain. So this island civilization passed on its culture to the United States, a continental civilization. Then the direction was reversed, with the United States passing on its culture to the island civilization of Japan. Now, these fruits are to be harvested in the peninsular civilization of Korea, where Christ is to be reborn. And this is actually very evident up until the present time, brothers and sisters. Now, um, Korea is one of the country which is highly regarded as the most advanced country uh, in the entire world. And then the next one is that the essences of civilization born on the shores of rivers and seas should bear fruit in the Pacific civilization to which Korea belongs. So when we go back into the history, all the other civilizations have started near the river. So yung river napaka-significant niya. So the river civilization which arose on the shores of the Nile, Tigris, and Euphrates rivers pass on their cultures to the civilization in the vicinity of the Mediterranean Sea, where countries of Greece, Rome, Spain, and Portugal. So these bequeath their fruits of the civilization on the Atlantic Ocean, notably Great Britain and United States. And all these fruits will be harvested in the civilization of the Pacific Ocean, which links together the United States, Japan, and Korea. So from the river civilization, it has expanded into ano, 'di ba? Into the ocean civilization and have now is in the Pacific Ocean. So yun. And that is yun nga, Pacific Ocean is the ocean that links together United States, Japan, and Korea. And then last, civilization born on different climate zones should bear fruit in Korea. So in round of the seasons, living things begin their life in multiplication in spring, flourish in summer, bear fruit in autumn, and store their reserves in winter. So the cycle of spring, summer, autumn, and winter is repeated not only year by year, but also day by day. Morning corresponds to spring, afternoon to summer, evening to autumn, and night to winter. So the four phases of human life, childhood, youth, middle age, and old age, also fits this pattern. Human history too unfolds according to the seasons because An aspect of God's principle underlying his creation is the harmonious seasonal circle of life. Amazing, right? And then, so yun, last, God created Adam and Eve in the springtime of human history. Accordingly, history was supposed to begin from the temperate zone civilization of Eden. Then, in its summer season, it should have moved to a tropical civilization. In autumn, a cool zone civilization, and it should have reached its culmination in a frigid zone civilization analogous to the winter season. However, due to the fall, human beings were degraded to the level of savages. Instead of building a temperate zone civilization, they prematurely came to live in the tropical zones as primitive men. On the continent of Asia, Africa pala, on the continent of Africa, they built the tropic zone civilization of Egypt. This continental civilization passed on its culture to the peninsulas and islands where cool zone civilization developed. They bequeathed their fruits to the frigid zone civilization of the Soviet Union, and now this current is to culminate in the formation of the temperate zone civilization of the New Eden. This should certainly take place in Korea, where all civilization are to bear fruit. The wow. Ako yung nag-lecture, pero actually, ako rin, kakaano ko lang din, parang kaka-realize ko na, wow, amazing pala, no? Ang daming beses ko sinabi yung amazing ngayong lecture. I think, oo. Pero yun, wow. Kakaano ko lang din yun, na. Parang ngayon lang sa akin nag-sink in rin yun, yung forging season, yung seasonal circle of life. Yan. I'm left speechless. But anyway, to conclude everything, brothers and sisters. So when you're asked, since we already know when, diba, the second coming will be, when will Christ return, and then how will he return? So when we ask naman yung third question, like where will he return, and then which country should will he return, and then who are the chosen people of this time? So your answer is none other than Korea. So Korea is the place where the second coming, or the returning Christ will come from. And then its people, Korean people, are the chosen people who bears the greatest responsibility among everyone. So yun, I hope everybody learned a thing or two from the lecture, and I hope I didn't bore you so much with so much talking right now. And I hope you enjoyed. Thank you so much, brothers and sisters.
Thank you so much, Bea. Yes, Pakso, very informative. Well explained. So, marami pa yan eh, but since we have a very short time, ano mo yung signature kong amazing. Okay, so let's proceed now to the last lecture, section 5. Kasi walang section 4 sa 3 hours. So I would like to welcome Ate Relina. Give us the
Nandiyan yung
lecture.
Julius.
Ay,
Nandiyan si Kuya Julius.
kuya,
I'm not prepared, sorry. Wala, ngayon ko lang nalaman na ganyan, magle-lecture ako eh. Dapat previously o beforehand.
so, amos na naman te. So let's welcome Ate Relina. Let's give a round of applause.
Okay. Let me share my screen. Okay. So, ano ba nangyari? Paano na ba siya? Share ko na ba yung screen ko?
Yes, ate. Yes, ate. It is already.
Section 5. So I'll be sharing section 5, the chaotic profusion of languages and the necessity of their unification. So we know very well that our languages, as human beings, we need to communicate, but we have different languages and dialects. So what happened? So in connection with the knowing where, when, and ano ba yun? When, how, and when the Messiah will come. So we will also be have the burden of asking, of knowing, should be, now that we know it, kailangan alam din na we should also solve the problem of our language. So, in order to solve it, so dapat we should know the the ibig sabihin, the cause. Why is it that we have so many languages, or we spoke different languages? So, if human beings had not fallen, we would have formed one global family, like one body with God as the head. Then there never would have risen a profusion of tongues unintelligible to one another. So pag hindi nangyari yung pag hindi nangyari yung fall, dapat isa lang yung salita natin. Kung hindi nga nagkasala si Adam and Eve, so ang salita natin is Adamic language. It's Adamic language. Pero as we already know, nangyari nga yung fall, so nagkaroon ng different languages. So when did these different languages started? One day, the descendants of Noah, second son, Ham, who had sinned against God, built the Tower of Babel. Exalt themselves even above God, thus furthering of the will of Satan. So it started with Ham again. Talagang si Ham is consistent, di ba? Para mapabilis lang tayo. Sam is consistent. In the story of Noah, di ba? Ham is the second son, and he should stand and he is standing as evil side or God's side, di ba? But then since he influenced his brothers to sin against God by covering his father, so nag-failure yung dispensation sa family. And then meron pa pala siyang isang kasalanan, yung profusion of different languages. Uh, dahil siya rin again this time, siya rin yung nag-initiate nung pag-build ng Tower of Babel to exalt themselves. Parang ayaw kasi nila na, no? If you read it in the Bible, sa Genesis 11 verses 1 to 9, makikita nyo na ang gusto nila is to exalt themselves. Ayaw nila kasi ng magkahiwa-hiwalay sila. So, naniniwala sila, sa panahon na yan, naniniwala na sila dun sa kasabihan na divided we stand, united we, divided we fall, united we stand. So, kailangan daw, mag-build sila ng tower to exalt themselves to God, nang sa ganon, maging mas mas sikat pa sila kay God. So yun. So thus furthering the will of Satan. So nag-build si Ham, nung tumulong si Shem and Japheth sa kanya, just like yung ginawa nila after dun sa pag-cover, nung tumulong siya, so ito yung ginawa niya. Ito yung ginawa ni God. When the descendants of Shem and Japheth who stood on God's side help with the construction, God brought such confusion to their languages that they no longer communicate with each other to further the will of Satan. So, para hindi mangyari yon, kung sabi ni God, kung ngayon pa lang nagkakaisa na sila, kung paano pa kung dadami sila. Kasi dadami sila eh. So, kasi nga, magmumultiply sila, di ba? Kung dumami na sila, mas mahirap na silang ah, mapigilan. Kaya sabi ni God, bumaba si God, tapos sabi niya ganon, together with the tawag dito, mga loyal angels niya, sabi niya, let us put confusion to their languages so that hindi na sila magkakaintindihan, and then hindi na magfo-further yung mapigilan yung pag yung will ni pag yung expansion ng will ni Satan sa mga descendants nila. So hindi sila nagkaintindihan, so hindi nga na-build yung natigilan yung pagbibuild ng Tower of Babel. So yung Tower of Babel, pag titignan mo ngayon, kung if you're going to Google it, tignan mo kung nasaan ng Tower of Babel, nasa ano siya, nasa parte siya ng Iraq, dun sa Babylon. Kasi ang Iraq ng panahon, unang panahon is Mesopotamia, di ba? Sa may Babylon part. Nandoon pa yung structure nung Tower ng Babylon. Kasi pag titignan mo siya, kung gusto yung so i-google nyo na lang para makita nyo na nandun pa siya. Tapos i-click nyo yung satellite para makita nyo na, tapos i-zoom in nyo para makita mo nandun pa siya. Nasa may Iraq siya na parte. So the ideal world of one global family. As offspring of the same parents, all of us have the same feelings of joy and anger, sorrow and pleasure, yet we cannot share our deepest feeling with one another because we speak different languages. Is not this one the humanity's greatest misfortune? If we are to realize the ideal world of one global family, which can honor Christ at the second advent as our true parent, surely our languages must be united. So, ngayon, we need to restore the of different languages. So, we must have one language to understand each other, and this is part of the restoration. So, if Christ does indeed return to Korea, the Korean language will become the mother tongue for all humanity, and all people should learn to speak it. Nangyayari na ba to? Is this happening? It is happening. Actually, we see, and if we really observe, meron talagang Korean, may tinatawag na Korean wave, di ba? And many people are truly learning the Korean language through in different mediums, di ba? Especially through we can now learn if you are truly good in English ka na tao, maraming nakakaaral na, and they can really understand Korean language. I know si Nevian, parang sabi nga ni Eva, she is translating yung translate niya sa mother niya, yung mga nasa Korean drama. Kasi tinatry nila sabi ng mama niya, tinatry nila na walang English subtitle para maintindihan nila yung Korean. And then pag hindi daw naintindihan ng iba ni Eva, tina-translate daw ni Nevian. So sana all ganun. So yun. So hindi lang naman tayo, even the secular world are very wanted to learn about Korean and whatever Korean, even yung food, di ba? At ang pinakamarami talaga yung Korean dramas na katulad nung isa sa sinasabi kanina ni yung Crash Landing on You tungkol dun sa separation ng North and South Korea na makikita mo doon. Meron pang isa doon yung King Two Hearts, maganda yung King Two Hearts din, mga ganon. So, makikita mo yung uh, how sad it is that and miserable it is that North and South Korea has separated. So they must be united soon. And that's what our two mothers doing. All humanity become one people and use one languages, thus establishing one global nation under God. So it is necessary for us to learn the mother tongue kasi ang true parents is galing sa Korea. Ganun. Ang Messiah is galing sa Korea. So, the mother tongue should be, kasi may tinatawag, di ba sa K-tutorial, may tawag mother tongue. Kung ano yung salita ng mother, yun yung natututunan ng anak. Yun yung ibig sabihin lang ng mother tongue. So, if we are to follow the mother tongue of our true mother, so dapat matutunan Korean languages or yung so in connection to uh the whole chapter, let 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 us read this poem of Rabindranath Tagore, The Lamp of the East, which speaks of uh na hindi lang naman yung sa Cheongdam no nakalagay na yung significance ng Korea sa panahon natin. In the golden days of Asia, Korea was one of its lamp bearers. And that lamp is waiting to be lighted once again for the illumination of the East, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free. There, the world has not been broken up into fragments of sorrow and narrow domestic walls. So, ito yung sinasabi tungkol na sa separation. Those words came out from the depth of truth, where Tyler's striving stretches in arms towards perfection, where the clear streams of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habits toward I by thee into ever widening thought and action. In that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. So, ito yung kay Rabindranath Tagore. I only remember, pasensya na, hindi ko na-google. So, assignment natin lahat, who is to Rabindranath Tagore. But then sa linguist ko nung high school, very familiar siya sa akin sa linguist subject. Basta alam ko Asian siya or Oriental poet siya ganun or Oriental artist. So we have learned that in connection with dun sa about the 40 we have been sa second part of the divine principle wherein it is the restoration part, like yung detailed explanation of the restoration part wherein we have been discussing yung indemnity 40 uh dispensation of 40 for the separation of Satan. So Korea on the cosmic level should also experience restoration on the cosmic level of restoration of Canaan. Kung yun yung sinasabi natin dahil Korea. So there is a first providential course and second providential course. So yung first providential course is 1905, is starting with USA Treaty to 1945. Kung makikita nyo dito, 40, dispensation of 40. So yung USA Treaty, ito yung treaty wherein ang isa pang tawag sa kanya is unwilling treaty or protectionism treaty sa that Japan will protect Korea. Pero actually hindi naman protection yung ginawa niya, but then nag-suffer yung Korea under that. So they need to uh, to experience this to justify the Korea as being the chosen nation. So 95 to and then para ma-complete siya, yun yung after nung 40 years separation of Satan, that is a foundation for the Messiah to appear. Nag-run siya into ano ba nangyari dun kailan ba nangyari ito? Ito yung after ng marriage, di ba 1944, yung first marriage ni Father, and then parang somewhere before June, bibili siya, yun yung sinasabi na bibili siya ng bibili lang dapat siya ng si Father is only to buy rice. Ang gagawin lang sa kanya, magbibili lang siya ng rice na dati niya nang nabili yon pero kukunin niya dahil malayo, di ba? And then, habang papunta siya doon, nabili niya na lang rice, nagsabi si God na pumunta ka ng north, yun nasabi niya. So, ay ko-cross niya dapat yung 38 level, yun nasabi niya. So, hindi na siya nakauwi, pumunta siya doon, and then saan siya pumunta? Doon sa Pyongyang, doon siya nag-start nung tawag dito, doon siya nag-start, kasi yung Pyongyang, di ba, pagbabasahin natin, yung pages of history, nakalagay doon, siya yung Jerusalem of the East. So, doon nag-preach si Father, and then yung sinasabi dito na foundation for the Messiah to appear, which is, ilang taon siya dyan? So, 1920, pinanganak si Father, yan. 25 years old si Father. So, yun. And then, yung second providential course naman, started with, na 40 years separation, centered on 40, separation with Satan, sa cosmic level restoration ng Canaan, issue from 1918 to 1948. Wherein this time, from pag-ira natin to, ito yung 1918 is yung start ng World War end ng World War I, and then yung March 1 movement sa Korea, and then yung pagkapanganak ni Father, and then yung Republic of Korea, ito yung naging independent, yung naging independence year ng Korea from the colonization of the Japanese. Kaya 40 yung second providential course para magkaroon ng Republic of Korea. Pero not long after that, nagkaroon ng, 'di ba? Na-divide uli yung Korea sa two nation. Yun nga sa 38 parallel. So ito yung cosmic restoration of Canaan. Another is that ito pa yung mga cosmic yung 40-year prolongation naman, yung 1945 to 1985, centering sa three brothers in America. We know that there are three Abrahamic faith, di ba? Yung first is the union, yung Judaism. And yung Judaism is one of the first, ano, di ba? One of the, if not the first na na-establish na religion. And Judaism killed Jesus Christ, di ba? They were the ones, the Pharisees and the Sadducees. Sila yung nag-kill, they were the ones who in, mastermind the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. That's the reason why sabi dito, they were the ones who killed Jesus Christ. And then, second is that, so dahil galing siya sa Abrahamic faith, tinatawag na yung mga Judaism, yung Christianity, saka yung Unification Church na elder brothers ni Father. So elder brother siya in relation to Reverend Sang Myung Moon, the second coming of the Lord of the Second Coming. Kaya may second, tapos yung second brother is Christianity, wherein kasi 'di ba dahil yung Israelites pinatay nila si Jesus Christ, they killed Jesus Christ. So their yung chosen people was yung mission of the chosen people was transferred to Christianity once completed the salvation spiritually. And that nagkaroon ng, but then after nga sa after nung uh, 'di ba Second World War, 'di ba dapat kasi after the Second World War dapat kasi the Christianity should proclaim Father or accept Father as the Lord of the Second Advent, but they failed. That's the reason why the mission was transferred by the term, was given to the Unification Church. And all of these are in this time period. 'Di ba in 1970s pumasok, 1971 ba or 1972 pumunta si Father na dun sa Amerika, 'di ba? Na Father went to America so that sa US kasi siya yung at saka Elder San, tama. Na Elder San, and it has the mission dahil siya yung center of the world. So para mapabilis yung restoration process natin, kailangan na kung pangunahan ng Amerika, because may influence siya all over the world, kung siya yung kailangan mag kaya doon kailangan mag-build ng foundation yung yung Messiah. But then all those three brothers, alam naman natin na karamihan ng businesses sa Amerika is headed by yun yung ang nagko-control ng businesses sa Amerika is mga Jews, 'di ba? Sila. Kung tayo sa Pilipinas may Chinese Chamber of Commerce, sa kanila yung mga Chinese nila doon, yung ang katumbas ng Chinese Chamber of Commerce natin ngayon dito sa US ay sa Pilipinas, sa US ay yung mga Jews. So yun. Sila yung, and then yung second, 'di ba, nandoon din yung Christianity kasi USA is the representative of the free world and Christianity also. And marami na ding medyo hindi ko pa nare-research kung sino yung elder brother ng Unification Church na nag-oppose kay Father sa Amerika. So, i-research natin 'yon. So, these three older brothers opposed Father so that in 1985, Father need to restore, indemnify all these failures so that Father went to Danbury, Pennsylvania. Kailangan niya doon nang sa ganun alam pa rin ni Father na kailangan pa rin niya yung Amerika ng suluan to restore the whole world or yung sa cosmic level restoration natin. That's the reason why at that time, that's the reason why na until now, America can still there's still hope for, meron kasing speech si Father na hope for uh, America, yung hope of America, yun yung ganon. So, ito yung nangyari. And then another 40-year prolongation na indemnity na ginawa ni Father is yung 1945 to 1985. From the Korean liberation to the victory after Father was Father was released sa Dunbury prison. So victory yon. So restoration of elder sonship yon. Why? Because yung three enemies in America na yung Judaism, Christianity, and Communism. And then lalo na yung itong mga to, yung Judaism and Christianity, di ba nagkaisa sila na palabasin si Father, yung religious freedom yung nila. And then ang target kasi nung meron yung Christian ay marami din kung mababasa natin providentially kasi pag meron din yung kausa, di ba? Tapos nandoon din yung kausa na na movement ni Father, and then dito yung tawag dito yung nandoon din yung mga communists, and they are trying to get these communists to get the tawag dito yung na parang kumampi yung Judaism sa Christianity, pero hindi yun nangyari. And then kaya dahil dun sa pagkakaisa yung motion for religious freedom, ganun ko lang siya sinasabi, na-restore yung elder sonship at through the nung tawag doon, when Father was released from prison. So another 40-year prolongation na separation sa Satan para sa is ito pa rin, yung Declaration of the Nation of the Unified World 1948 to 1988. All this is establishment of the government of Republic of Korea, and then centering the sa 1988 Seoul Olympics, basahin natin lang. And it represent yung Esau and Jacob united. At least from 160 countries, 414 from Soviet Union. Father invited the athletes, yun. Kaya kapag mababasa natin yung mga providential speeches ni Father tungkol sa Seoul Olympics, ito yung providential meaning niya. So yung Esau and sa modern times. So the nation of the unified world, and ito yung pinoclaim ni Father after that. So ito yung sinasabi niya na doon sa isang natin sa Noah's time, kailangan kasi mag-proclaim. Ang problema kasi no Noah, di ba? The problem of Noah, hindi niya kasi proclaim yung big niya over dun sa flood judgment, at hindi niya pinoclaim dun sa mga anak niya, even though nag-celebrate siya. So, hindi nila naintindihan. So, yun yung sinasabi natin na kailangan may ginagawang proclamation si Father na hindi natin naintindihan. Pero ito yung isa sa mga three na yun, di ba? Three na yung pagpanday ng mga yon. Ito yung mga work ng Lord of the Second Advent, proving that through Father, the Reverend Sang Myung Moon is truly the Lord of the Second Advent in connection to chapter 6 of the part 2 of the Divine Principle. And Providence to Restore Parentship, ito rin yung 40-year prolongation again. Dito, communism was handled, ibig sabihin na control natin yung communism, yung pag-spread ng communism kasi yung communism sa Russia is natigil, di ba? So protected China from Panda with Panda, Archangel Nation, and 1919 yung 1990 net ni Father Sigor Bashet, di ba? And then 1960 naman, Kim Il-sung. And then in 1992, kung ma-remember nyo, nagkaroon ng world tour si Mother as proclaiming Mother as true Mother and standing together with true Father na equal on equal level. Hindi sila yun, as true parent, true mother. Ito yung 1992. Dito ko rin unang nakita ang isa sa mga true parents. Actually, ang una ko nakita among the true parents is si true mother. Hindi pa talaga ako hindi pa ako official member noon, pero I saw true mother doon sa saan ba yun? PICC? Ano? West Philippine Plaza, parang yun. Doon siya.
JCC.
So 1952 to 1992, a meeting with Gorbachev World Media Conference in Moscow, freedom of religion. Ito yung mga take down Lenin's statues, diplomatic relation with Republic of Korea. Tama. Help ROC, Republic of improve relationship with yung MK, hindi ko alam. North Korea. Educate Soviet youth, ito. Kasi, di ba, dahil dun sa meeting with Gorbachev, ito yung mga na-establish ay na-accomplish ni Father from 1952 to 1992. And then, yung isa pang na-accomplish ni Father during this 40-year prolongation to restore parentship, di ba, minute niya si Kim Il-sung. So, alam natin, mababasa natin, even, lalo na sa True Mother's autobiography, how true parents have prepared in order to meet Kim Il-sung. Paano nila prepare? Kinalimutan nila na maraming kasalanan si Kim Il-sung sa kanila. So, kinalimutan nila, sabi ni Mother, ang na tumatak sa isip ko and sa heart ko na sinabi ni Mother sa only in the level of parent pwede nilang patawarin o i-forgive si Kim Il-sung. Pero kung hindi sa level ng parent, hindi nila kasi 'di ba, ang parent kasi palagi siyang nagpapatawad sa anak. Pero kung as elder brother or as elder sister or as siblings, hindi nila mapapatawad siya. Pero yun nga, they prepared hard, true father and true mother, the true parents, really prepared their heart to forgive Kim Il-sung before na magpunta sila, ma-meet niya sila uli on as a parent. So yun lang yung yun yung sinasabi nila. And then in fact, where they are preparing for that, nag-prepare sila from pumunta sila from East Garden to Hawaii, di ba? Doon sila from Hawaii to North Korea sila to China, and then China to North Korea. Hindi pa nila sinasabi yon, basta doon sa Hawaii yata nila pero nagpre-prepare kasi kung bakit nagpre-prepare sila pupunta sila ng Hawaii pero ang piniprepare nila winter clothes, parang ganon. And then talagang nag-prepare sila at hindi nila minit si Kim Il-sung na hindi nila sila totally sa heart nila is na forgive si Kim Il-sung. That's the reason why na nagkaroon ng victory yung meeting nila. So, advocated Godism kahit na during sa speech ni Father doon may sinabi siya may sinabi si Father doon sa nagulat daw lahat yung mga taga North Korea, akala nila hindi makakaalis ang true parents na buhay doon, parang gano'n na if you cannot even control your sexual part, yung sexual organ nyo, how can you control the world, parang gano'n yung sinasabi ni Father sa kanila. So yung Jutes ideology, yung unification is not with Jutes ideology. So bawal dun sa North Korea magsalita against Jutes ideology, pero exactly yun ang ginawa ni Father. So nagkaroon ng reunion of separated families kasi doon sa nila, even Kim Il-sung even tawag dito, nag-suggest pa nga siya ng tawag doon ng venue for the blessing. Yun, hindi ko lang alam kung natuloy yun, pero ang alam ko natuloy yung pag-meet reunion ng separated families of North and South Korea. Through dun sa mga, ang naging doon yung mga little angels. Then the Gumgang mountain tourism. Ito yata yung sinasabi na yung venue for the blessing na sinasuggest ni President Kim Il-sung at that time. Ito yung victory or yung accomplish ng true parents sa meeting with Kim Il-sung. And then because of this tawag dito 40 indemnity restoration or indemnity centering on separation of Satan centering on number 40. So nagkaroon ng global age of coming of day global age of women. Father's effort to establish mother called 7 countries 5 times a day for 40 years. Called 7 countries. And 1992 nga na-establish yung WFWP, yung Women's Federation for World Peace, and appointed mother as chairwoman. Restoration of parency flourished to proclaim true parents. So ito yung nagkaroon ng world tour at si True Mother. So ito yung yung kabuuan ng binabanggit na natin na National Dispensation of Holy for the Separation of Satan for the Cosmic Level Restoration of Canaan. Yung Canaan is yung Canaan na naging Israel pero na-lost nila yung yung position nila, and then was transferred to Korea. Yan. So kaya kailangan ma-unify yung Korea on the cosmic level. Ito yung usapan natin kay Nina. And this ends my presentation. Thank you po.
Thank you so much, Termina. Yes, that is the. Ayun, you have to study Korean. 안녕하세요. Hindi lang alam. 감사합니다. There you go. Magaling si Father. Right. So, in yung chapter 6, Second Advent of the Messiah. Praise the Messiah. Who are the Messiah? The parents. And I would like to ask reflection from you guys. Kahit dalawa lang. Here we have only 10 minutes. Let me ask. What is it? Ah, pero na, pili ka nga. Hirap pamili. Kaya nga nagpamatcha ka. Eh, naka-mute ka.
Si Kuya Aki.
Ah, kay Aki. Let's welcome kay Aki.
Okay. So, for reflection, actually, ang daming, ang dami ngayong knowledge na punta sa utak ko ngayon. So, it's kind of hard to say everything. Siguro, sa mga main points na lang na-remember ko or maybe na talaga napasok sa utak ko. So, mm, first thing in my head right now is the thinking about how Korea, the now one have been chosen as the second advent. Uh, how as Ate Bel said, she said, I mean, oh, ate ba? Yung, di ko alam. Maybe you're same age, I don't know. But yan, sabi niya Ate Bel, yan, from or Korea's come from the second advent, how paano gaano ka bait bait ba hindi mabuti parang ganun how virtuous mga ganun, righteous ganyan yung mga tao, how they believe on some people, how they honor them, like I cannot remember. Pero may mga tao diyan na rememberable na remarkable sa mga ginawa nila nung Korea days, and how they actually, from listening from history class from about Korea never had a war against some nations. Actually, that is actually true. Na yung Korea is like sobrang peaceful nila, pero at the same time they just got really suffered so many from other nations na invaded sila, like from Chinese, I think. I forgot nakalimutan ko na yung history ko eh. So it's like Korea did really have so many sufferings, and how sila kung bakit worthy sila as getting the second advent. So it really fascinates me to hear from Korea. And then after that yung yung parallel, how nahati yung North and South. Actually, napunta ko rin ako ng Korea noon nung punta ko ng Chongpyeong, and we visited the parallel, the line. So the one I saw is like like parang wall, parang barbed wires ganun. So, and I heard from people, from my other friends, second generation friends, na nagjo-joke sila na kapag gumiti ka daw, nagtayo ka daw sa line niyan, tapos gumiti ka daw, babarilin ka daw sa mukha. Something like that they said to me before. I mean, I don't know if it's a joke or it's true, pero they said like that. So I mean, and yung pagkarinig ko noon nung punta ko ng Chongpyeong, it was actually long time ago, but still I remember that place when we visited it. It's just a bar, parang hinaharangan lang. So ayun. So, what next is ayun, may na rin ako. About dun sa profusions of tongues, how they their languages, paano na yung language, paano di sila it's about the Tower of Babel, yung nag-worship sila, nag-worship sila ng ibang klaseng god, maybe, I think, or creating that tower. It was it was nice to hear na unified sila, pero that part, kahit nag-unified sila, pero it's the wrong way, the evil way. So, yun, the reason why they got have proficiency of tongues and they didn't understand each other is to not unified more, and para hindi ma-multiply more yung tao na yan sa Tower of Babel na yan. So that's the reason, that's the cause why nagkaroon tayo ng mga proficiency of tongues, bakit hindi na tayo magkakaintindi, bakit may mga iba't ibang klaseng language, Korean language, English language, ganun. So, it's kind of hard of course, kasi with different kinds of languages, we won't understand each other. It's kind of hard to bring peace kapag di natin maintindihan yung isa't isa. We don't have any cooperation with other nations because they have different kinds of languages. So, as they said, learn Korean. Actually, nag-aral ako dati ng 21 days from IPLC. I did, but I only know how to read. So, yun. So, that's, yeah. So, just learn daw Korean. Maybe, I mean, I will try to after I finish learning Japanese. Kasi nag-aaral ako ngayon. So, then, bigla wala ko yung, ay, naalala ko yung isa yung nakalimutan kong bigla, ano ba yan? Ano ba yun? Nalimutan ko. Ang dami kasi. Teka na. So, actually, for weeks na. Okay. So, yun na lang yung reflection ko for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aki. So, maraming natutunan si Aki. And thanks to our really amazing lecturer. And who else wants to reflect? Ate Sylvia, kindly choose among the four.
Like
Five,
heaven.
five. Let's
Right?
welcome Heaven.
Good evening, poor brothers and sisters. So there is a lot of content as well I found really helpful and beneficial. But something that really stood out to me was also about all the indemnity conditions that the Korean people had to face, like especially their long history of suffering, and
Mm-hmm.
like their character and the by like how by nature they're endowed with a religious character, and I think that really helps sort of set the standard of how we're meant to live in our life of faith and have that filial piety, loyalty, and um, and that. But I also like something new that I learned was especially the combination of all the civilizations, especially regarding the what Atabe was saying, the the use of the climate, because I don't think like the combination of the climate, just because I don't think that's really something that's talked about like in the secular world, and how Korea fits that
Good.
in
God
in
is
that.
so good.
So yeah, thank you, Paul. I think that was my reflection for tonight.
Thank you, Heaven. So it's very painful history, 40 years of dispensation. Sa Philippines, ilan ngayon? 333 years within
Yeah.
the Spanish colonization. And do we invade other countries?
No, I don't, not at all.
Yeah, we don't. But when we study the Philippine history, we invade actually, but we are not curious. And one of the like during the time like 9th century, before yeah, even before the Spanish came, our mga ninuno ba, yeah, the northern part of the Philippines, they invade like China.
Oh
They
my
wanted
God.
to. It's not gold
Conquer?
because we're using gold. Yeah,
You
but
want to
anyway,
conquer the Taiwanese part?
yes, yes, it was the somewhere southern part of China.
Southern part?
Yeah. Anyway,
Wow.
natutunan ko yan sa kay tawag nito? Proceed. We studied last year kasi lockdown. So he decided to ano study the Philippine history. Nag-attend ako dun.
Amazing. I also didn't do that.
Yeah, we are fighter actually. Tayo yung fighter talaga tayo.
Typhoid.
Anyway, yes.
Barbaric joke. So we are fighters. Had we
Uh,
had been given opportunity to become mighty, then we can be like, oh my God, never mind.
Anyway, let's go back to Korean history. So yeah, Korea really chosen nation. Yeah, many explanation. But alam naman natin kasi we are the thing is time na pala. Ano malayan. Anyway, let's study more about true parents, especially the life of true parents. To mas dun din natin mas maintindihan why Korea is the chosen nation and why true parents are the Messiah. That's really yun ang dapat nating gawin as a member. Kasi I've already shared this to brothers and sisters. You know the mother of the brothers. You know the story of Jesus, where and how Jesus was born. But how about true parents' life? He has dates. We didn't know. Also me, I'm studying true parents' life. Konti pa lang. Need more time. All right. Thank you so much for tonight, brothers and sisters. So let us end this evening in a prayer. Here, pray ka natin muna. Ate Jinky, can we pray? Bisa ate.
Okay. Let's join me in my prayer, brothers and sisters. Our most beloved Heavenly Parents of heaven and earth and humankind and our victorious true parents. Thank you once again, Heavenly Parents, for guiding us tonight, Heavenly Parents, through the history, Heavenly Parents. How we learn, Heavenly Parents, and also how much you are really waiting, Heavenly, how much all people, Heavenly Parents, that really waiting for the last days, Heavenly, for the second advent. But still, Heavenly Parents, they not yet accept, Heavenly Parents, our beloved true parents at this time. But how much, Heavenly Parents, that we know divine principle, that we could be able also to testify, Heavenly Parents, the Messiah already come, Heavenly Parents. Thank you once again, Heavenly Parents, for this opportunity, Heavenly Parents, that you're given to us. And we truly hope and pray that we could be able to really, as instrument, Heavenly Parents, to witness those people at this time. And also we could support our beloved true mother, Heavenly Parents, at this 7-year course, Heavenly Parents, that we are going to walk through, Heavenly Parents. Thank you once again for this night, Heavenly Parents, as I really wanted to offer this and pray in report in your names. Wajinjinki, so as a blessed couple, Jew.
Jew.
Jew. Thank you so much, brothers and sisters. Let's give a hand again sa mga lecturer natin. And don't forget to write your reflection. Yeah. Uh,
Thank you so much, Paulette. Good night, everyone. Bye.
Good night, everybody. Ate, para kanina umakit talaga ako.